Hey everybody, Jake Sorensen from Perfect Pictures Entertainment. Today we are reviewing the Canon 24-70 Mark II, the second version, versus the Tamron 24-70, their new lens that has vibration control, or their version of image stabilization. This review is mostly for video purposes. There's several other reviews out there that cover photography, but I could not find anything dealing with how these lenses compare when used for video. So here it goes. The Canon 24-70 is a better lens. It just is. It has a better build quality, has better optics. However, it's not twice as good as the Tamron, because that's about how much it cost. Tamron really outdid themselves with their new lens. It is this close to being as good as the Canon. However, there are just a few things here and there that make the Canon a better lens, both the build quality and the optics. However, the problem is that Canon, for some mysterious reason, left out image stabilization. Something that many people were furious, seeing how Tamron, right before they announced this lens, came out with their version that did have the image stabilization. So they left it out, and the question then remains, is it worth still buying the Canon 24-70, since it is a better lens all around, or is it better to buy the Tamron 24-70 because it has the image stabilization feature, and it is still a very close lens to the Canon. So I tried to do all the research that I can online, watched every review I could, but like I said, nothing was out there that dealt with them concerning video. I watched one that had the Tamron versus the old version of the Canon lens, and they're pretty close. However, this lens really beats out the old version by a lot. And that says something, because the last version of this lens was a great lens. So I tried it out. I tested it on a bunch of different equipment. I was not testing for the actual optical quality. I know what that is. I know that the Canon will beat the Tamron when it comes to that. The only thing I was testing was whether or not the image stabilization in the Tamron was worth stepping down to the Tamron lens versus just that little bit of extra quality that you get with the Canon 24-70. So I tried it out on all of my different pieces of equipment. Obviously, tripod, there's no need for image stabilization. I tried it with the jib. Also, there wasn't too much of a need for image stabilization. You could use it and it may help, but I found that if you've used a jib and a dolly track much and you have that experience, then you probably don't really need the image stabilization with that. The glide cam. The glide cam, I found that the 24-70 typically is not as wide as I'm looking for when it comes to using the glide cam. The problem, see, I use a crop sensor. This is the Canon 60D, so that's a 1.6 crop, which means that the 24mm at its widest now becomes, what, I think that's 38 millimeters. So it's not quite as wide as I would typically go with a glide cam. Typically I use my Tokina 11-16, which is a fantastic lens for those of you out there who are using crop sensors. I would highly recommend this lens. I typically don't buy too many crop sensor lenses, just because one day if I upgrade to full frame, which I probably will, they're not going to be useful to you still. I guess you still can use the Tokina 11-16 apparently at its widest, or it is at its 16mm, and it still somewhat works, but that's for another review another day. So the glide cam, typically wouldn't use this lens anyways. Where I did find in the testing is with shoulder rigs. Okay, the shoulder rig is a great piece of equipment, and honestly, everything that I shot with the 24-70 for the most part was perfectly usable. Very good footage. Yes, it was a little jittery, but you know, that's the handheld look. If you're wanting less of a handheld look, obviously you want to use a glide cam or a tripod or another piece of equipment, unless you absolutely have to for documentaries or something where you're going mobile. So here's what I found. The shoulder rig, it did help But like I say, the Canon, everything that I shot was still perfectly usable. The Tamron did help make it a little smoother, especially when you're zoomed in more to the 70mm range. Tamron will make it a little better. However, even at the 70mm range, I found that this lens did just fine. The one issue that I did find with the Tamron and the image stabilization is that sometimes it's a little jumpy. And what I mean is, it's as the camera is being moved, as it's shaking, there's little gyros in your lens that are trying to figure it out and stabilize the image. Okay, if you move just beyond where they're able to calculate, which it really isn't too far of a distance, the image a lot of times doesn't make a really smooth transition up to there to be still. It kind of jumps, and then it's holding still, and then it jumps, and then it holds still. So it can kind of have a little jumpy of a look. However, if you're really running and gunning, it's probably worth still having that image stabilization. So I'll post some of the examples of clips at the end of this that you can take a look at for yourself. Otherwise, here's my recommendation for those of you out there who are wondering between these two lenses. If you have all this other equipment, or you're planning on getting this other equipment to help stabilize anyways, like a jib or a glide track or glide cam, nice tripod, you really don't need the image stabilization feature in a lens. However, if you don't have that equipment, it may be worth just purchasing the Tamron. Like I say, it's really a tight race anyways. The Tamron is a lesser quality lens, but not by much. And so in the end, it's probably the best bang for your buck anyways. But if you're focused on quality, you have this other equipment, I would highly recommend the 24-70. Now, if you do shoot a lot truly handheld, meaning you're holding it in your hands shooting video, I would say for sure go with the Tamron, because that is where it makes a huge difference. If you're just hand holding it, the 24-70 does have way too much shake to it. But if you got this other equipment, my recommendation would be the Canon 24-70. It is a great lens, and I'm a sucker for the L series build quality. I love just how nice they feel. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions or comments. I will try to answer them best I can, either in another video review or in the comments section. If you have any other questions about filmmaking in general, feel free to ask them, and I'll see if I can get to them in another video review. And have a great day.